So I figure there's two ways to help grow BNI. Find more guys like Bill or just have more kids. And so I'm working on the latter. So, all right, I've only got about 10 or 12 minutes. I could stand up here and spend every second of that just talking about Bill and his commitment. But what I want to start with is recognizing more than just Bill. We got a lot of recognition in this room. So in BNI, we can only actually track, and we're working on fixing this, but our database only actually tracks a current membership in a current chapter. So for example, Dr. Jason, who I've known for years, started off in a different chapter, then came to this chapter. It reset when he came here. So I don't even know factually how long you all have been around BNI. So I want to do it like this. If you've been around BNI for a year or longer, please stand up for me. A year or longer. So Bill, you qualify. Stand up over here. More than half of the room. And I just want to tell you all how much I personally appreciate that, because that is the community that I was talking about earlier. Please remain standing if you've been a member of BNI or around BNI for 2 years or longer. Remain standing, most. All right, how about let's jump up to 5 years or longer. I know there's at least a small handful of you in here. Dr. Jason's about 6 years now total. Now in this actual chapter, there's at least 2 of you, and I wrote down your names earlier. Both David and Andrea have been sitting members of this actual chapter for more than 5 years running. So let's give them each a big round of applause. All right, I think that they already stole my thunder earlier, but how about 10 years or longer? Anybody other than Sonny and Bill? How long, Michael G?
11 or 12.
11 or 12, but not just in this group, right? You were in another group as well? Okay. And Ken, how long? I know you met my dad when I was as tall as the tables you're seated at.
It's got to be 20 plus years, because as I said, I joined this group in the 80s, late 80s I think it was, and Bill was in it. We're over at the Good Egg or the Eggery. Yeah.
Good Egg down the street. Yeah. So let's give a round of applause for Michael D., Ken, Sonny, and Bill. And because of her tenure in just this chapter alone, I've got a little pin here. Some of you asked me about mine earlier. Actually, next month will be my 10-year anniversary of doing BNI full-time here throughout the state. For Sonny, I've got one. It's got 2 little stones on it there, and that represents 5 years each. And then for our very own Bill, a gentleman who told me when he got in the car this morning, he remembers meeting me when I was
Snot-nosed kid.
Snot-nosed kid wearing diapers. Actually at the kitchen table of the home that I grew up in, which is where BNI used to do trainings with literally 2 or 3 tables and a tenth of the amount of people here. Bill was there. He's got a better memory than I do because he remembers it well. And for you, sir, 20 years later, there's your BNI pin, and thank you for all you've done. For BNI... for not just BNI, not just this chapter, but the communities. And he alluded to it when he talks about all the members that have come and gone. But you know, if I also think about all the visitors that have come and gone and visited this chapter and learned something new, that's something I think that really gets pushed under the rug when it comes to BNI is just education. And the education we all get by being at even a 90-minute meeting, even if it's just once, let alone once a week for 20 years. And I know that you have shared quite a bit of education with the communities and the small business owners, entrepreneurs, and salespeople around Arizona. So thank you for that, sir. I appreciate it. All right, so that's like 5 of my minutes. I got 5 left. I want to try to share some value with everybody. So I passed around an article. Did everybody get a real quick handout? You don't need to take notes. I try to keep things as simple as possible in my life. This actually came from the Arizona Republic. I don't get credit for this. I'm sure many of you recognize it and read it. This was published last year, actually, in January. It was in the business section. Really, to me, the most valuable part of what's left of our Arizona Republic is Harvey Mackay's syndicated article that comes out on every Monday. Anybody here not heard of Harvey Mackay? Raise your hand. All right, you all have. If you haven't researched him lately or bought one of his books, I highly recommend it. This guy's a best-selling author and public speaker, but he didn't start that way. He created a name for himself by building the largest envelope company here in the United States. They're up in Minnesota, and they print over 100 million envelopes a year that show up in a lot of our mailboxes. Guy's very wealthy, very successful, has had a big impact on my life, and I know many others. Well, I read his article every Monday, but you might imagine why this one really caught my eye. The title of it is Be Smart, Create a Network. I'm not going to read you the whole thing, but I want to bring your attention to the middle column. These are literally the clippings that came out of my newspaper last January. Harvey was a personal friend of Steve Jobs. He's played golf with Warren Buffett, very well connected. And it says here that if he had to name the single characteristic shared by all the truly successful people he's met over his lifetime, he's now in his early 80s, he'd say it's the ability to create and nurture a network of contacts. Why? Because a network replaces the weaknesses that we have as individuals with the strength of a network, or a room like we have here today. My favorite line in the entire article: you don't have to know everything as long as you know the people who do. You know, to me, that's the power of why this group exists, why this group has been around for 20 years, and why Bill's been willing to get out of bed at 5 o'clock, and his wife begrudgingly kind of once in a while too. And so, you know, I just wanted to share that with you all, especially the visitors here, because I think you have an amazing opportunity to be a part of an amazing group that not only has guys like Bill, but presidents like David and Gary and these crew. I don't even know when the first email came out planning this event today, but I know it was several weeks or even months ago where these guys were willing to go above and beyond. And a lot of the gals of the group who really bent over backwards to help us guys make sure everything's in line and to have us here. So please help me give a round of applause and recognition to all the leaders. So now when it comes to the power of networking, what I want to just share with you real quick is that any one of us has the ability to go out and knock on doors or to pick up the phone and cold call people. You know, however, those aren't my favorite things to do. Instead, I'd much rather be around a group of like-minded people, developing relationships, like I said earlier, that hopefully lead to referrals. I already got one today with a name and a phone number of a couple that's up in Payson. Thank you, Andrea. I really appreciate that. I will be in touch today. And this could very well, this little 3x4-inch piece of paper here could very well lead to the next community and the next Bill Rudd up the hill here in Payson. So thank you for that. And if I do my job and I handle it properly, hopefully it will create results. Not just for me, but for people throughout this great state of Arizona. Well, the power of networking to me, if you could picture a bullseye, or if you want to take any notes, you don't need to, but if you flip over your piece of paper and draw a 3-circle bullseye on there, I want you to think about the power of networking. Now, to me, sales are a lot like hunting. Any one of us could go out and one at a time hunt down what is going to be our next meal, or, you know, find some prey. Heck, in this town, if your neighborhood's like mine, there's millions of quail running around all over the place right now. Any one of us could do that. And to me, going out hunting to get your next meal is a lot like sales. It's a lot like knocking on a door, presenting your product or service, and hoping to get one new client. And if you do your job properly, the best thing you can get is one new client by knocking on one door. Well, to me, B&I, and networking in particular, is more about farming. It's about farming a group of like-minded individuals. If you were to draw a circle, put the number 20 in the middle. The average size B&I chapter has about 20 members. I'm sure the average networking group out there has somewhere around 20 members. And by developing relationships with 19 or 20 other people, especially on a weekly, consistent, structured basis, to me it's all about planting seeds. If you've ever been into farming, my wife grew up on a farm up in northern Illinois where I've spent what little bit of my time I've been on a farm at. And what they do every year is they plant a crop, right? They plant a bunch of seeds that grow a ton of food that provides meals for long term, and then, you know, they carve it down, or I don't even know the lingo, whatever they do. Pick the crop? I don't know. I grew up here in the desert, in the Southwest, clearly. They do something up there to chop it all down, and then the next year, you know, more crops grow. And that, to me, is the power of networking. And it's one thing to realize that there's 20, today there's 30 of us in this room, but then if you were to put in that second circle the number 250, studies have shown, entrepreneur.com. Anybody ever been to that website, entrepreneur.com? If you go nowhere else on the internet today, I recommend every single one of you go to entrepreneur.com. I have no ties to them. They don't endorse me. They don't pay me to endorse them, but it's actually, their website is the homepage on my laptop. So every morning when I open my computer, before I go to bni.com, I go to entrepreneur.com because I always learn something new. It's kind of what I would call like the Google for business, right? It's an international organization. And their studies have shown that the average business person knows about 250 other business people. Those are the seeds. So if you think about 20 people in a group like this, or 30 that we've got here today, multiply 20 times 250, and the number you get is 5,000. Ken's brain was like already working. The CPAs are always a step ahead of me. You know, so 20 times 250 is 5,000. So by having a crop or a fellow group of farmers who are out there planting seeds for you, you don't just get access to 20 new doors to knock on. That's the 30-second presentations that we all did this morning, or 60-second. But you get access to 5,000 people. Well, where it goes just one step further, if I went any more than one, it would blow my mind. But if in that third circle you draw the number 250 again, 5,000 times 250, anybody know real quick? 1.25 million. Or 250 people times 5,000. Right? That's where I was. Yeah, 250 times 5,000. I usually use a flip chart, but I didn't want to be the guy to get in a limo today with a flip chart, so instead I left that at home. But 250 times 5,000 is 1.25 million, right? I'm pretty confident. I'm 99.9% confident.
Numbers are not my thing.
250 times 5,000. So to me, the power of networking and having a trusted group of dedicated people who, especially in this case, aren't in competition with you. You know, there's a lot of networking groups out there where there's multiple people from the same industry. But the power of BNI and networking to me is by having like-minded professionals who aren't in competition with you, helping to plant seeds. You don't just get access to 20 people in a room like this or 250 in their little community, but all of a sudden it gives you access to 1.25 million people, and what is that? A quarter of the population of our Maricopa County here.
Actually, 1.25 million people plus the original 5,000 plus the 250.
Okay, now he's totally blowing my mind. But yeah, leave it up to the CPA. So you know, to me, that's what it's all about. And obviously, Bill is a testimonial, an example to that, and I appreciate it very much. But I also appreciate equally every single one of the visitors being here today, because I've seen it firsthand, where visitors not only contribute to groups like this, but they also benefit from groups like this. And that's the community I referred to earlier. So I don't have time for questions, but if you'd like to ask me any about BNI or networking or Harvey McKay, feel free to see me after the meeting. Otherwise, thanks for having me today.